Hello viewers, and today I wanted to show you the settings that I use for Call of Duty Warzone in Cold War Season 1. I wasn't actually going to make this video until one of my viewers asked me to, and I thought it'd be a pretty good idea if maybe you could see how I sort of have my presets and with the way I play. So I'll just go through each of the settings: controller, general and audio. I'll start off with controller and sort of just work my way through. Some of them I probably will skip over as they may be default, but starting off with the BR button layout, default isn't actually default in one of the updates, and I think if you just download Warzone now, it will actually give you tactical. It will give you something else. And all it means is that you have to press a button to flip between your tactical grenade and your lethal grenade. And if you just need to quickly throw off a C4, a gas grenade, a stun, a smoke to get away from enemies, like, it's a one more button press and it's not worth it. So I use the default button where I've just got LB or RB on my controller, or R1 and L1 if you're on PlayStation. And I just think that's much better because it's much more of a immediate reaction to whatever's happening. I don't invert the look. Deadzone 0.07. I'm not sure if this is default, but it basically moves as soon as I move the controller, but not so much that if I've got any sort of, if my analog stick is sitting a bit funny, then it's not going to give me any drift. But the horizontal stick sensitivity and the vertical stick sensitivity, some people have the horizontal stick sensitivity slightly higher because obviously your screen is wider than it is tall, and so they want to be able to get to the edge of the screen as fast as they would get to the top of the screen, if that makes sense. But that actually massively throws me off, especially when you want to go for diagonal movement, because your stick input wouldn't actually be the same angle that the crosshair would move in, because the input sensitivities are different. So if you had a higher vertical stick sensitivity and tried to move it perfectly at a 45-degree angle, you would have to move your stick sort of a little bit less, because the vertical stick sensitivity is sort of more powerful than the horizontal. But anyway, for the ADS sensitivity multiplier, I actually have them both on 1 for this game, but on Black Ops Cold War, the high zoom, I actually have it quite higher because I quickscope on Black Ops, but that doesn't really matter, so I'm not going to include that in the video. For the aim response curve type, I just keep it on standard. I think linear and dynamic, it's just much too... It takes the control out of your hands, I think, a little bit. And so just having it standard is almost like it's implying that that's what the aim response curve type is meant to be, and how they've play tested it mostly, I would assume. I have the controller vibration enabled. The main reason is I want to know if I'm getting shot, and it's just another sense for me to understand that I am taking damage. Aim assist standard, you can disable it if you want. I have tried, but you just get destroyed by PC players. Weapon mount activation, I've noticed that some people do actually have this on ADS. So if you ADS and you happen, if you ADS and you happen to be near cover, people will just immediately mount onto something, even if they weren't really looking at it. And it definitely is a good idea to put that on if you are the kind of person that does that, especially if you want the camos as well, because there is a mounted kills for each of the camos. But I just don't think it's massively worth it, because it could actually throw you off. You can actually jump several feet across the floor to get to that mount, and it can actually throw you off your aim. So weapon mount exit enabled. Obviously you want to get off it as quick as you can if you get shot at from an angle that you can't see. Aim down sight behaviour hold, I want to sort of feel. It's all about having that sense of control with the gun that's supposedly in your hands. Equipment behaviour hold, you want to cook grenades. Reload behaviour, I've got this on contextual tap, so this means that I can tap it to reload as long as there's nothing else to interact with in my area. So for example, if I'm stood next to a car or a door or a crate and I tap X, or square if you're on PlayStation, it will open the door, get in the car, or open the crate before it reloads. And so if you've got any doubt that you are near something that it might interact with and you want to reload, you hold the button to reload, and it will reload instead of interacting with those objects. This makes it particularly good for picking up guns really quickly as you first drop down. Instead of having to hold X and the sort of like that response, you tap it, you pick up the gun straight away, you pick up the grenade straight away, or whatever. So it's definitely more useful, especially if you want to be quicker and grab a gun before someone else when you first land. Yes, that's enabled. Armor plate behavior, apply 1. And the reason I'll say this is because even though you can sort of do the double tap word, double tap triangle to cancel it, applying 1 armor plate gives you that additional opportunity to go, do I need to apply another one, or am I about to die? And so applying 1 is much better than applying all, because it will just forever keep applying them, and you may sort of think you have to sort of keep track of how many it's putting on and things like that, and you just want to be as focused as you can, so you just hold down the button for 1 and then you see if you need to do it again. So movement, I've recently changed this. The slide behavior is tap now, and that's because I've been playing Cold War and it's tap on that as default, and I'm just sort of just getting used to the sprint tap, and that means that I can quickly get back onto my joystick because I have B for crouch. Some people have pressing in the right analog stick, but I prefer B. And that means so by tapping instead of holding, I can quickly take my thumb back to the analog stick and be able to aim at an enemy quicker. It's just little things like that which will give you a massive advantage once you've got it in your muscle memory. Auto move forward, I've got that enabled, so you push the movement stick forward twice quickly, sort of like that. Almost like if you've ever played Minecraft, I think it works in Minecraft. And he will run forward continuously, and this means that you can do lots of things while you're on the move. You can check out your inventory. If you're running for the circle in a straight line, you've got a guy behind you that's a teammate, and they need armor. You can do your enable auto sprint, and then you can mess around with your inventory, drop plates for them, drop armor, and they can pick it up as they're going along. Or if you just want to like see the score, or you want to look at the map quickly while you're not having to pay attention, it's just there. And it's a really good idea. Vehicle camera recenter, I've got that enabled purely because you can just sort of get a little bit caught up in moving the camera so much so that it's perfectly symmetrical in the car. You could split it down the middle and it'll just recenter it for you. So you just get it as near as abouts, and then the game will do the rest for you. Moving on to general now, so this is things like your safe area, your brightness, and all sorts of things like that, as well as field of view, but I don't think you can change field of view in this, so I haven't. But brightness, I've just got it on 50. This all depends on the monitor that you're using. I'm using quite an old television, and so the brightness, I just don't really want to mess with it just in case, you know, my sort of visibility of other players is affected. Film grain, just turn that all the way to 0. The higher the film grain, the more blur that you have. If you're into photography, this is also known as noise, and it makes dark areas almost have white specks in them and things like that. You can see on the screen here a bit of a comparison where the picture on the left is 0 film grain. It's as crisp as anything, and that's what you want because you want to be able to single out things, whereas with the film grain up, colours and shapes almost blur together. There's that almost lack of contrast between definitive lines. But anyway, tooltips enabled just in case, you know, there's anything on the floor you can't see and it's like all use, then that's great. It's also good if you want to complete intel. Subtitles disabled, they just distract me. Language, whatever language you speak, I'm assuming it's English. Colorblind, if you're colorblind, I am not colorblind, so I do not turn this on, but I just think it changes a couple of greens and reds and things like that. World motion blur, this is another thing that just stops your visibility from being hindered, essentially. So disable it. If you enable motion blur, it basically makes any form of movement blurry for the background of the gun, so you can see both of these pictures are actually in motion, the player is rotating, but with the world motion blur off, you can still see very clearly into that window if there was an enemy there, whereas on the picture on the right, with the world motion blur enabled, you're going to have a much harder time being able to see a player. And the same goes for weapon motion blur. It's sort of just a bit of a distraction, really. You can't really see where your gun is, especially if you wanted to go for a hip fire and a quick turn. The weapon motion blur is just going to hinder you, really. For the HUD, make that mini-map shape square. If you actually look at the area that it fills in, as long as you're not too fussed about the HUD taking up loads of your television as a whole, or monitor, you can see much more with a square minimap, which means you can see red dots on the minimap of people fire, and you can also see cars and helicopters coming towards you, so you've essentially got more time to react. I'm going to have the minimap rotation also enabled because that allows me to better orient myself to what I'm seeing in front of me. I can quickly look up and I don't have to almost tilt my head to see what's there. And the compass cardinal direction text, I have it on letters. On the odd chance that you're southwest or west or northeast or whatever, you can say that much easier than going, oh, he's 243 degrees, you know, and then the person has to find 243 exactly, and rather you can just say, oh, southwest, west. And so you've got lots of, it's just allowing more context for communication, and I think it's a really good idea. Text chat enabled, but even though I don't really use it because I don't have a keyboard. Profanity filter, do you get offended? Dismemberment and gore effects, this only really matters for some of the blueprints which actually cause dismemberment and gore, because otherwise I just think your character pretty much just falls on the floor. And audio, I don't mess with this too much. As most of you probably use headphones, these aren't the headphones I use to play, use the headphones I use to record these introductions and videos. For the audio mix, I use Boost. I think I found that this is the best purely based on footsteps. You can hear the footsteps the most clearly in the most different situations. With all the other audio mixes, it will either massively increase quiet footsteps, and then you won't be able to distinguish if the footsteps are close or far away because they'll always sort of stay at the same volume. So Boost is the best one to go for. I'm sure there's plenty of other videos that explain it a lot better than I just have, but Boost is the best, I'm pretty sure. I have turned the music volume down because I think towards the end of Season 6 they added such loud music to Warzone when circles start to close and you go into you're in the final circle if you're lucky enough to get that far. The music is extremely, it just really puts you off and you can't hear anything. So I've turned it down right down to 60, and I've done the same for dialogue. As long as I can just about hear what the characters are saying, it's not actually that important. I'd rather be able to hear what my teammates are saying rather than what their characters are saying. Effects volume, keep that at 100 because that's things like doors opening, I'm pretty sure. It's also things like footsteps, people reloading, people putting armor on. You want to be able to hear all those things because they're cues for you to make a decision and increase your chance of winning. If you're feeling nostalgic, you can have old school Modern Warfare hit marker sound effects, but I just keep it on Modern Warfare because I'm not really that bothered. And this are all your voice chat presets, so you can choose what you want because it really does matter on if you have a headset or not. Wall tracks as a passenger enabled. I do have those on because they're just a bit fun sometimes in certain situations, but I think that is just about everything. So I hope that you found this helpful. I've never really done anything like this before. I hope it's not too long and boring, but if you can copy these presets and you actually get better gameplay out of it, please do let me know. I'd really like to see if I have helped any of you at all. So leave a like if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one.